and welcome to the 5 Minute Film Club. Today I'm bringing you my review of The Godfather Part Two, released in 1974, and then next week I will be reviewing Godfather Part Three, leading up to Francis Ford Coppola's new cut of the film, entitled now Godfather Coda: The Death of Michael Corleone. The Godfather Part Two was released in 1974 and sees many original cast members returning. The film serves as both a sequel to the original 72 film, as we see Michael, the new Don, fighting to protect his family business, and also as a prequel exploring the journey of his father Vito Corleone from Sicily as a young boy to the streets of New York in the early 1900s. Coppola wanted this film to chart the rise of Vito and the fall of Michael. However, he wasn't exactly bothered about coming back and making it. Initially, he suggested, well, why don't I just produce the film and you could get somebody like Martin Scorsese to do it? Paramount said no. Also, Francis Ford Coppola had a horrible time making The Godfather. In my original review of that film, I said that basically every single decision he tried to make, they would counter it. Coppola had a few rules for the studio. Number one, I have complete control. No executives on the set, and I'm not showing them any of the footage I'm shooting. I also get final cut. Number two, I want some more money, please. A decent amount this time. And finally, number three, the film is going to be called The Godfather Part Two. The first two rules they agreed readily to, but number three, calling it Part Two, well, that just didn't seem right. They didn't think audiences would want to go and see a film that they thought they'd already seen. But Coppola put his foot down, and Part Two it was. And actually, that is the first instance of an American film holding a title like that. And as we know, it wouldn't be the last. To write the script again, Coppola partnered with original author Mario Puzo, and all of the young Vito storyline is lifted from his novel. To help flesh it out and bring it to life on screen, Coppola added little moments from his family's own history of arriving in America, along with recreating paintings and photographs from the time. I think all of the 1900 storyline, whether that's in Sicily or in New York, are my favourite parts of the film, just because of how they look. They just look so beautiful. Robert De Niro plays the young Vito here. De Niro is fresh and on the cusp of becoming a big star. His performance perfectly matches Marlon Brando's Don Vito, and you completely believe in how this young man grows into that person. De Niro would go on to win Best Supporting Actor at the 47th Academy Awards for his portrayal in this film. And then you get to the continuation of Michael's story, set in 1958, and things take a darker turn, and a somewhat more complicated one. Countering the simplicity of Vito's rise to power, Michael's is very, very muddled. He's constantly having to battle dodgy politicians and casinos, and also an assassination attempt. But this adds a great level of mystery to his part of the story, as we try and work out with Michael who is responsible. Al Pacino is very different to the man we first met at the start of The Godfather. The man who was independent of his family's business, who just wants to live a normal life, is now so entrenched. There is no way out but to just keep ploughing on, no matter who gets in his way. He gives another great performance, and in fact everybody does in this film. Nobody holds back. They all feel very free, and I think that probably comes from Francis Ford Coppola's approach. He had a horrible time during the first film. They always wanted to replace Al Pacino and Marlon Brando, so now he is in control of the project. And I think his ease of being able to work with the actors and workshop everything and just let them live in their characters for longer, they all get a better sense of who they are, and that really does come across on the screen. But that's not to say that Coppola makes it easy for himself, as even though the film follows the structure of the first one, it starts with a big family celebration, this time a first communion party rather than a wedding, and ends with a quick succession of murders set against some big climactic event, the film also throws in a host of new characters and locations, and essentially a whole other film with the Vito storyline. It is a long film, and it does have an intermission, but at no point does it feel bloated, and I can quite happily sit and watch this in one long stretch, because the two storylines are so interesting. Where The Godfather brought Coppola to prominence, The Godfather Part Two actually shows him at his best. And I do subscribe to that theory that actually The Godfather Part 2 is a better film. It's a more satisfying film than The Godfather itself. You know, you can't take Part 2 away from Part 1. They're just one single story. And that's wonderful. And I think after you've watched it, it feels like you've had a gloriously full Italian meal and you can sit back and relax and just go, can I have any more? Well, next week I'll be looking at The Godfather Part 3. And in that film, we find a very different Michael Corleone and also find Francis Ford Coppola at a much more precarious place. Thank you very much for watching my review of The Godfather Part 2, and yes, join me next week for my review of Part 3. But before that, this Friday I have got my review of Citizen Kane, ahead of the new Mank film by David Fincher releasing to Netflix on December the 4th. Please subscribe if you want to see those videos, and comment down below to let me know your favourite parts of The Godfather Part 2. But until then, I'll say thank you very much, and goodbye.